So the main thing is we need like a safe supply. We need safe drugs from a safe source that people can access.
Tonight, a deadly new drug hits the streets of Vancouver, and there's no way to stop an overdose.
We are in the living quarters, Sector B.
A new jail in Quebec has better conditions for Inuit prisoners, but those prisoners still have to serve time thousands of kilometers from home. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. The fight against deadly drugs such as fentanyl and carfentanil has been ongoing since 2014. Up until now, though, first responders have had naloxone, be able to reverse these overdoses. But now, health officials in BC are worried because there's a new drug on the street that naloxone has no effect on. APTN's Tina House has this story, and it's got a warning for some viewers. You may find parts disturbing.
According to Billy James, they don't call these the mean streets for nothing. He says he's been a drug addict for 30 years on Vancouver's downtown east side, and he says everything's been changed the last few years down here.
There's no such thing as heroin anymore. You know, heroin's heroin. You know, someone ruined the whole heroin gig and just started bringing out this fentanyl shit, and it's done nothing but kill people and, you know, kill a lot of kids, really.
How many people have you lost now?
I've lost tons of people. I lost a lot of friends, a lot of close friends, right? People that haven't even tried drugs, you know? They try one thing thinking it's something and it's not.
According to Statistics Canada, between 2016 to 2018, black market fentanyl and carfentanil, which has been mixed with cocaine and heroin, have attributed to 11,500 people dying from overdoses in Canada. Health officials introduced naloxone to help reverse those opioid overdoses. But now, according to BC Medical Health Officer Dr. Mark Lasician, an even deadlier combination of drugs have been found, making naloxone ineffective.
In our drug checking project, we've identified samples that have opioids and benzodiazepines. And they're not the benzos that people get prescribed, they're ones that are being made by the black market.
Prompting health officials to send out warnings to the community. Troy Helton works with the Overdose Prevention Society.
It's causing overdoses that are extremely hard to rouse after they've been hit with naloxone. Lost account for hours, they don't know what's happened.
I mean, we still want people to use naloxone because there's probably opioids involved as well. So we want to reverse that overdose, but unfortunately we can't reverse the benzodiazepine overdose. So, you know, when people are having those overdoses, we want them to call 911 because the ambulance can come there and they can protect the airway if they need to, and they can even bring them to hospital. And there is an antidote that can be administered, but it can only be administered in the hospital.
Trey says there is only one solution to fix the problem.
We need like a safe supply. We need safe drugs from a safe source that people can access.
As for Billy, who says he once had a scholarship for wrestling to Simon Fraser University before drugs took over his life, says he's overdosed 27 times, and naloxone has brought him back every time. Anything else you want to say about what's happening to the people here on the streets with the mix of drugs?
There's not much I could say. People have their own mind, right? I just, I hope you make it through the day.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
A Haitian mother in Montreal has lodged a complaint with Quebec's Human Rights Commission over racist lyrics in her daughter's Scouts songbook, a book which also contains questionable lyrics about Indigenous people. Lindsay Richardson has more.
The Sigaloo songbook may have been intended for children, but its lyrics are far from child's play. A far cry from normal camp songs, scouts with the 212th St. Bibiane Troop in Montreal learned the words to The Little Negro, about a black child eating bananas and bathing in bleach, or the song Tomahawk, calling Indigenous people, quote, messengers of death. Another says they boil enemies alive, serving them with ketchup and olives. Cannibalism, racism, Islamophobia, it's all in this handbook. And according to CRAR, the Center for Research and Action on Race Relations, without question, none of it is acceptable.
Those stereotypes and the lyrics, the images and the depiction that those songs basically present, we couldn't believe that there's, we're in 2019 and we still have to deal with these stereotypes.
Niemi says it's taken months for the troupe to make amends or even acknowledge the lyrics as racist. No one seems to know how or why it was printed. In a statement to APTN National News, the Association des Scouts du Canada, who oversees the troupe in question and are not affiliated with Scouts Canada, said, quote, "The Sigaloo collection of songs is an independent, isolated, unfortunate and reprehensible work. It is not part of the animation and singing materials provided to managers of Scout groups and units." The association did confirm with APTN National News that an internal investigation is underway and all Scouts employees will have to undergo mandatory sensitivity training. Now, as for the mother, she's now taken her complaint to a higher level, filing with the Quebec's Human Rights Commission to the amount of $10,000 in damages for herself and for her daughter. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
We want to hear what you think. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in Edmonton today dealing with pipeline politics. Trudeau met with workers at the terminal point for the controversial Trans Mountain pipeline. Trudeau has come under fire from both directions by both energy workers and environmentalists over his position on the pipeline. Today, Trudeau said the pipeline remains a priority for his government.
I think this is an issue that has been preoccupying Albertans for an awfully long time. The fact that successive governments, the Conservative government for 10 years and our government over the past years have been working very, very hard to get our resources to new markets. And that we were able to make a determination to move forward on the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion last June. A few weeks ago was very important, but it was also really important for me to come out and make that announcement here in Alberta.
The construction of the pipeline is expected to begin this year. The annual gathering of Canada's premiers and territorial leaders wrapped up in Saskatoon yesterday with somewhat of an ominous warning. Western leaders are suggesting Ottawa's energy policies are dividing the provinces. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says the relationship has never been more strained.
The level of frustration and alienation that exists in Alberta right now towards Ottawa and the Federation is, I believe, at its highest level, certainly in our country's modern history.
A nation that is waiting for your response.
Assembly of Manitoba. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Arlen Dumas announced today he's taking a leave to heal amid allegations he sent women unsolicited and unwanted messages that made them uncomfortable. Dumas has said messages sent to a young woman he met when she worked at a Winnipeg restaurant weren't sent by him, but by somebody posing as him for political gain. He didn't explain how that person would know details of how or where they met. Follow-up texts, though, to the woman's phone, which were listed on her social media profile, were from his AMC phone number, he admits, but he believes that his number was spoofed. He's denied ever sending messages to anyone that were intimate or inappropriate. Dumas says he's going to take a leave for counseling, for grief, and for sensitivity training during that leave, and he said it will be short, but he didn't specify a time frame. Meanwhile, AMC says that Chief Sheldon Kent, of the Black River First Nation, he will fill in as acting Grand Chief. It's been a year since Yellowknifers were able to separate their recycling from the trash, but they got some shocking news recently. We'll tell you why after the break, and here's tomorrow's weather. To the east coast, 26 and rain in Fredericton, 19 with a mix of sun and cloud in St. John's. Kuujjuaq is mostly sunny and 17, 20 and rain in Cartwright. Val-d'Or, 23 and rain, Saint-Jovic, 27 and rain. Sunshine, though, in Montreal, 29. 29 also in Windsor and sunny, 24 in Sunshine in Sault Ste. Marie. Campus Casings raining in 23, Sudbury rain in 26. 13 in rain for Churchill, 27 in rain in Norway House. Lots of sun down south, 29 for Barons River, Princess Harbor, Gimli, Winnipeg, and Dauphin. 30s for Swift Current and Regina. 30 for Estevan, sunshine in the last two places. 20 and sunny in Uranium City, 21 and rain in Buffalo Narrows, and 24 and some rain in Larange. Welcome back. Whitehorse remains under a smoke-filled sky as Yukoners are being told to limit their outdoor activities. Wildfire smoke from Alaska and the Yukon is blanketing the territory. APTN's Chris McIntyre has more.
It's pretty bad. I can feel it.
Sometimes I don't even want to leave the house because of the smoke.
39 fires in the Yukon continue to burn out of control, and the wildfire smoke is getting denser. An air quality advisory for the territory has been issued. Dr. Andy Delipizzi is the medical officer of health with the government of Yukon. He issued the advisory and says that although people are still doing their day-to-day business, it's important that Yukoners be careful during this time.
Those who are, participating in activities outdoors, if they experience symptoms, like if they start to have the irritation, or if they have more severe symptoms, then that's an indication to move it indoors. So when the smoke isn't too bad, it's okay for healthy people to give it a try, but also take it easy and know that if they start to feel unwell, to take it easy. Yeah.
A lot of people in Whitehorse didn't even know there was any air quality advisory issued, but with the sky getting smoky, it was hard not to feel it.
Being a smoker and then having all the extra smoke around kind of makes it a little hard on the lungs. I'm coughing a lot more.
We haven't seen the mountains, number one, for about 2 weeks. It makes it really hard to breathe in the evenings, things like that. So yeah, it's just, you kind of can't really go outside so much when you have little ones.
We have such a beautiful surrounding here. And with all the smoke, it kind of affects my mental state more than my physical state.
Some of the people most at risk are the elderly and young children. If you start feeling symptoms like eye irritation or trouble breathing, go inside and contact your local healthcare provider. Even with all the smoke, Yukoners say that wildfires are just a part of the summer and it could be a lot worse.
Smoke's a part of the north too, so I'd rather deal with this than Toronto smog any day of the week.
Chris McIntyre, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
In the capital city of Northwest Territories, Yellowknifers have been sorting their plastic, glass, tin, and cardboard at one of several recycling drop-offs, but their efforts may have been in vain. Residents were surprised to learn that their recycling was actually going to the landfill after a local newspaper showed these empty containers at the dump. But this incident is not isolated. Over the last 2 years, tin and glass has wound up at the city dump. City officials say they've struggled to store recycling since early 2018, when China put a ban on accepting many recyclables from North America.
Yeah, so as residents may have seen, there was some recycling that went straight into the landfill. And so the practice has been to bail recycling, and then we're shipping as much recycling down south as possible. But we were short-staffed for a few weeks.
A new prison in Quebec is stepping up its services for its Inuit detainees, but the larger issue of Inuit being held over thousands of kilometers from home for months at a time before even being found guilty remains a problem. Tom Fenario has the story.
This is the new $125 million Amos detention facility. So where are we now, Josiane?
We are in the living quarters, Sector B.
Since its opening in November 2018, Josiane Gendron has been the assistant director here. She says it's a vast improvement over the old Amos prison, which was notorious for overcrowding.
Because there's more room in here to a bigger capacity, we were able to respect the agreement that we have with the KRG and Makivik Corporation to group all the Inuits, the preventive custody Inuits, here in Amos. We're entering a single cell.
On average, Inuit detainees make up more than a third of the 160 inmates here. This wing of the prison is currently empty, but is identical to where the Inuit are housed. And, unique to other prisons in Quebec, this facility also has a room designated for Inuit cultural activities, including a space to prepare traditional food.
The painting was made by an incarcerated person from Cree and Inuit origin. So we hired him to do this painting so that it kind of gives the feel of the North.
This mural on a prison wall is an apt metaphor for Inuit detained here. In many ways, they are stuck between two worlds. Nunavik doesn't have its own prison. Inuit are ferried by plane back and forth, more than 1,000 kilometers each way, from the time they're arrested to their trial. And depending on their case or the weather, the time spent here can be extended by weeks or months. Significantly more time in prison than non-Inuit in custody.
Inuit rights are regularly infringed on, where Inuit rights are not respected.
Lucy Gray has held many titles within the justice system in Nunavik, from court translator to director of a halfway house for Inuit offenders. In November 2018, Gray told the Quebec Inquiry on Indigenous Relations about how justice is conducted in Nunavik.
And these Inuit are put in Amos, totally isolated. No one there to protect them, no one there to ease them, no one there to ensure that they are corrected. They always regularly come back more damaged, more hurt, and then they become repeat offenders.
Gray isn't the only one to lament the treatment of Inuit detainees. This 2016 report by Quebec's ombudsman laid out dozens of recommendations to improve justice in Nunavik, most of which have been implemented, including improved services for Inuit Amos, such as adult education.
So we'll have a full-time teacher as of August this summer.
Located in the Abitibi region of Quebec, Amos is almost 600 kilometers northwest of Montreal and about 1,200 kilometers from Nunavik's closest courthouse.
Abitibi might as well be across the ocean. Abitibi might as well be near Australia. We have no connection to Abitibi.
The Quebec Ombudsman report made two specific recommendations to cut down on arduous travel. 2.5 years later, neither of which have been fully implemented. One is the creation of direct flights from Nunavik's villages to Amos, instead of going through Montreal or Val-d'Or.
So it's coming. It's in development. We have no dates of when it's going to come, but it's definitely in the talks.
The province says the first direct flight from Nunavik to Amos took place on July 4th, but at the moment, it's just a pilot project and will only continue periodically. As for the other solution to cut down on travel, using video conferencing for trial appearances, the Amos prison is ready.
Because of the internet link with the North, with Nunavik, it's not been developed yet. It's not taken place yet.
But the Kativik regional government, who administer services in Nunavik, say that the internet speed is not the holdup, but rather negotiations with Quebec, which are ongoing. For Lucy Gray, improvements cannot come soon enough.
You know, Inuit are very forgiving, and the white Halunak Wiwis kind of have a hard time with that. They want to punish. But the intention of justice is to bring social harmony. And this version is not bringing harmony. It's bringing chaos.
Tom Fenario, APTN National News, Amos, Quebec.
Forced sterilization of Indigenous women is still making headlines in this day and age. 2 more cases came to light this week, this time in Manitoba. CTV Winnipeg's Josh Crabb reports.
The details came to light through these recently filed court documents alleging 2 Indigenous women were sterilized against their will in hospitals in Winnipeg and Brandon. Saskatoon-based lawyer Elisa Lombard represents the plaintiffs, whose identities are protected by an interim publication ban. She says their allegations are part of a proposed class action lawsuit in Manitoba.
We very much see it as a public health issue, a public safety issue.
One woman alleges she was sterilized against her will in a Brandon area hospital in 1985 after the birth of her 4th child. A second woman alleges she was sterilized against her will in a Winnipeg hospital in 2018 after the birth of her 2nd child. Few other details were shared in the court documents. Lombard wouldn't speak to the specific circumstances of these cases, but she says the allegations are similar to other concerns she's heard from women about coerced and forced sterilizations across the country.
While she is in the throes of labor or under some significant duress and stress, she is approached or the issue is raised of a tubal ligation, sterilization, getting your tubes tied, raised in different ways. And at that point, either consent is or is not signed.
The court documents allege the first plaintiff has experienced psychological and mental anguish and anxiety, and a persisting inability to trust doctors and nurses, and a loss of faith in her spirituality, and that the second woman has experienced hormonal imbalance, extreme mood swings, and weight gain. The documents also allege she's experienced significant anxiety, difficulty trusting people, and has lost her sense of identity as a woman.
Generally, I can say that the women that I represent struggle with their infertility and the impacts arising from that infertility on a daily basis, and that struggle is extremely real.
None of the allegations has been tested in court. Josh Crabb, CTV News, Winnipeg.
That's your news for this fine Friday, I do believe. Are we going for a commercial? We're going for an anchor throw. We've got a break coming up. It's not the end of the show. We have lots more news. Stick around. Starting off in northern Alberta, we've got 20 in sunshine in Fort Chip, 24 in rain in Grand Prairie, 25 in rain in Calgary, 32 in rain in Medicine Hat. Quesnel is rainy in 23, Tofino rain in 19, but 29 and some sun in Penticton, 22 in sunshine in Dease Lake, 23 and sunny in Smithers, 23s for Dawson City and Mayo and sunshine, 19 for Watson Lake and rain, Fort Laird and Trout Lake cloudy and 14, 22 and sunshine in Norman Wells. Tuck is 18 and mostly sunny, so is Colville Lake, 28 degrees and sunny in Fort McPherson. Chesterfield, mostly sunny, 15 degrees. RV at 17 and sunshine. Tallyoak is 8 and rain. Goya Haven, 6 and some rain. Clyde River is rainy and 13. Pangerton, sunny and 13. Welcome back. New Yorkers will be posting a lot of social media photos this evening as a rare spectacle lights up the city. A few times a year, the setting sun lines up perfectly with New York City, our street grid. The phenomenon has been dubbed Manhattanhenge. The stunning display is expected to take place around 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time and will reappear tomorrow around the same time. Drivers are being warned to watch out for people stopping in the middle of the streets. I always like watching for that on the social media. Well, that's your news for this fine Friday after a very long week, for me anyway. Check in tomorrow night for your APTN News Weekend. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a safe Friday night.